congratulations. You have got your PMP in less than 20 days. I think it was amazing. Like in 3 weeks, cracking PMP is not an easy thing. So let's hear from you. Like what really inspired you? I heard even you tried with Pimbox, earlier Pimbox and other versions before, but you didn't have that courage. So let's hear about you. How did you get that courage after the session?
Sure, sure. No, thanks a lot, Doctor. First of all, I'd like to thank you because, your enthusiasm during the training sessions, the boot camp was really good. And, every day, I think your message was, strike the iron when it's hot, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or at least maximum 6 weeks. Try and do it because it's going to be fresh in your minds. So, I think that was a big motivation. I like you, yeah, and rightly, I did try to do I tried to do PMBOK 4 or PMBOK 5. And at that point of time, which was, what, 12 years back, we're talking about this time. I don't think, we had Zoom and, a lot of online resources compared to what we have now. And it was just basic Google search, you get on downloads. So, the study material also was, you read the book, and I think going to an instructor-led session helps you so much because it just helps reinforce the understandings, and you're just not reading something and then trying to attempt the exam. And I didn't have the confidence then. And but luckily, being a project manager, I got into project management by accident, and I've been part of many projects. But I never, I thought, because I finished up, I do contracting, so I finished up in December with a contract, and I thought, okay, but till I get a new contract, let me try and upskill, and it's a good time to do PMP, because it's always good to have the project management qualification. So I thought, no, this time let me just study for it. And the good thing was because I'd worked in agile and waterfall and a matrix or hybrid environment, that experience came in handy to sort of understand the concepts or reinforce some of those things, especially during your sessions. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence to sort of say, yes, I think I can do it. And especially with the mock exams afterwards, after the session, after the boot camp was over, I think, I started off with low score. Yeah, we can discuss that in a bit more. So yeah, definitely, I would say that, no, your encouragement and I think you pushing us was a big factor in, going for the exam quick. And I knew, because, you normally with a work-life balance, your studies and family and all of that gets pushed in the background. But this time, because since I was on a break in between jobs, I thought, okay, I'll push it, and I'll push myself and do it. So
Very
yeah.
nice. In fact, you talked about breakfast. Feedback is the breakfast for champions. I think you used that word,
Yes.
which is nice. So,
Yeah.
reflected to what? What feedbacks? You're talking about the mock.
And make my own notes as well, just to sort of keep it fresh. I think that's something that, if you do immediately, it just helps, from keep retaining your knowledge as well. So I think that's one tip that, always, maybe give it the next day, and next day before the session starts off, if you can spend an hour just going through the previous day's session, that helps in taking your notes and bullet pointing those. And once the bootcamp was over, in terms of doing the mock tests, I started off with about, I think 66% was the first attempt that I did. But for me, it was more looking at the wrong answers, and then giving, for me, identifying what it was. And it was good that you get wrong answers, in the mock exams. It is, at least you know that, you can reset it and it's not a real exam. And the study material, or the online platform gives you why the reason is, so if you've selected a wrong option, it will give you the reason as to why it is. And sometimes you would debate in your mind as to, no, I think that is that's not correct. But when you look at the reasons for the answers that you got wrong, definitely it helped, reinforce some of that understanding, and then you'd go back and refer to your notes as well. So that was something that I did throughout. And it would be like, okay, if I got something right, and if it was a guess question as well, I would still read through that and not, that's something that I did, because sometimes you would just be like, sure, let me just say it. And then, like we said in Hindi, so even for those, guessed answers which were correct, I was like, oh no, I guessed this, but let me just look at why it was correct, and that sort of reinforced some of those understandings. And slowly, I kept on reattempting these mock exams. Apart from the mock exams, I think what really helped were some of the games that were there. So, I downloaded the app, and if because the mock exams, you're always, or you have to be in exam mode. Uh, so the practice questions help because they were like short 10, 12 questions. So you can time box it. So you don't have a lot of time if you're in between things. Just focus on those 10, 12 questions and then come back to the other sections, so that helps. And even the apart from the big mock exams, I think the 4 or 5 mock exams some of these apps have, they have smaller mock tests on agile, hybrid, and waterfall as well, or predictive. So you can take those mock tests. They're only 15 questions or 15 to 20 questions, which doesn't take up a lot of time. So if you focus on that also, it'll help. But the main thing for me was the games, because I had the app, and then I would just play like a game. So you have 3 lives. So if you get 3 answers wrong, then you lose the game. So it was, and then it gives you a leaderboard over there in terms of, so there's someone in the top 5 or 10 in the world, and the top score was 200,000 or something like that. And then I started off with like a score of say 16,000 in the world, and then the games literally helped me. So I was like, okay, fine, I need to save the lives. So it was more like playing a game,
Mhm.
which was increasing my knowledge. And then I think when I got into the top 1,000, then I felt okay, yeah, now I can. And then I noticed that that knowledge was there in the mock exams that I took up. So a lot of the learnings from those games that I played. So when you're playing the game, you're not like actually studying, and you don't feel like you're studying, but you're actually grasping the knowledge. So that was a very good aspect from the games perspective. So for people who are time poor, definitely play the games in from the apps that you have. Whether it's Knowledge, PMI Study Hall. If you can play those games and learn, it'll be really great.
In fact, I call every project as a sport, like that. Even the examination is also a sport. If you really
Yeah,
don't have a fear, go for it. Go for your full potential. I think that's what matters. So, how was your
absolutely.
examination day like?
Yeah.
It must be a real experience there.
Yes, yes. So actually, I think it suggested go to the center and do it.
Yeah,
But the center, the timings and the days were not working.
I
So
know.
the online,
You
one
did
was in the morning, and me being a morning person, I thought, it's good to do it fresh in the morning because I feel my mind works better
nice, very
then.
nice.
And so I started off at around 8 to 8:15 in the morning
Uh-huh.
with the test. But yeah, test the connectivity and all of that was there. So sorry, as per the Pearson View guidelines, so you always test the network one day before, and then I tested it like 1 hour before,
Hmm.
and then half an hour before it was tested and it was ready to do.
Okay.
There were, I think, the online thing, was fairly, I think, help. It was good because one thing with the online thing was you're in your own comfort zone in that sense that you're not in an exam center where
Okay.
I think which would have increased my nervousness. So I would say that if I would have gone to the exams, my nervousness would have been high. Not that I was, but being at home, I think my nervousness, the intensity was slightly lower, but definitely very nervous. Um, and uh,
What
for
was the
me,
extra
it was
security you had to show up in the?
yes, I had to take all photos, from my phone, clear out my desk, and show. So there was a proctor who calls you, and
Hmm.
then they ask to see what are your surrounds. I'd kept a paper, and she said, "What is that?" Oh, and then I removed that. I didn't realize it was there in the corner. It was some mail that had come through. But anyway, they want to see a clear pitch. So which was fine actually. So you want to do this, fairly, and for me, it was mainly just focusing on this, and it just gives a sense of achievement when you do it in the proper way,
Correct.
so
Correct.
I was just wanting to do it from that perspective. The exam questions as such, I think some people got a lot of calculation based questions, like like the SPIs and the CPIs. I think I only got 2 or 3, but it was just mental calculations. If I
Hmm.
knew that the SPI was lesser than zero, then or the CPI was lesser than zero, then I know the project is behind schedule and over budget.
Right.
So those basics, again, I think that's something that I focused on a lot during the boot camp and post boot camp as well, is
Right.
to get the formulas and get the understanding right. So once you know that, yes, it is, if it is below 1, then yes, it is bad. And if it is 1 and above, then okay, you're on target and above target. So those basics, were there for me. So those two or three questions luckily didn't involve calculations. And yeah, I did not use the calculator, but I used the review function for some of the questions, because I think when you're doing it from home, every 60 questions, you get a 10-minute break.
Mm.
Um, and before that you get to review. So sometimes those review questions were a bit, there were a couple of confusing questions for me. So I wanted to revisit. I selected an answer, but I thought, okay, I think I'm just guessing here, but in the interest of time, let me just come back to it. And then I proceeded to the next question. So the review function helped. And yeah, those, I think I had about three questions that I put in for review. And I
Anything.
finished up my exam, I think, with at least, I think, 30 minutes to spare.
Okay.
So in 3.5 hours, so usually it's 4 hours, so 230 minutes. I think I had about uh, 36 or 37 minutes left
Mm.
when I finished the 180 questions. So, which was good.
So you
So,
click the button even though there is a 30 minutes, or you did some revision?
no, I did not want to, because I was like, let me not think too much.
Okay, very nice.
Because I know that, okay, I was fairly confident with my answer, because if I go back, apart from the few questions, I did not want to go back and revisit my answers so
Very
much,
nice.
because I knew that, okay, I was fairly confident with those. The ones that I wasn't confident were the ones that I had marked for review. So from a review perspective, also, I had just, only those three questions. I did not want to go back and revisit other answers,
Mm.
just to sort of, because I was fairly confident in those answers. And I think just the practice helped, because some of those questions, there were a few tricky questions, but a lot of the other questions, I would say, you know, this scenario-based questions, follow a general guideline. Basically, it's not exactly the same, obviously, that it is in the mock exams,
Mm.
uh, but it is slightly, but you get, okay, it's on those lines at least. So if you have those questions along those lines, then you can use that for your, okay, you can jog back your memory and think about it. Okay, this is what it is. But I think apart from that, I think a lot of it is common sense, and plus my own practical experience in
Correct.
working in projects before.
Right.
So that helped come through in the answer. So mainly, I think it was a combination of the study, the boot camp, the study material, the mock exams, and
Mm.
experience. So these four aspects definitely helped clear the exam.
So I think in boot camp you got that understanding right because you could relate to your
Yes.
experience. I think that what made a difference, right? And also then you did you refer any books like Pinbox, Seven, or
No, no, no. The PMBOK again, the PMBOK 7, I would just refer to some sections. So because some of my scores in the mock exam, especially around the scope part and some of the, I think mainly the scope, the planning and scope part of it was low. So I've tried to just focus on that to get my understanding right. Because I think when you do the mock exams, you get a sense of, it'll give you uh, you know uh, an output of which sections you've scored and less, and which sections you've scored more.
mm,
So the ones that I was scoring, say, below, say, 70%, I would sort of focus more on those, so that I can get my scores up. And the ones I knew where, if it was 70 and above, I knew, okay, maybe it was just a minor tweaking of understanding required. So I would go back and review the questions again. Even like I mentioned earlier, even if it was a guessed answer which was right, I would still, you know, uh, check
validate?
my understanding of that
Right.
just to make it right. So I think usually the tendency is, if you've got it right, then you don't tend to review it.
Correct.
But I think if you've guessed it, then I think it's very important that you need to review it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. I think I also showed you one way of checking out justification for correct and wrong answers. Maybe did you apply that sometimes that you want
Yes,
to
yes,
have it?
absolutely. So I think one important thing was, which you mentioned, was not only for the correct and the wrong answers, but the answers might look similar. The four answers might look similar. So, but you have to pick which is the right one, and the keywords help in that. So I think the keywords was always there,
Mm.
and the good thing was, in our WhatsApp group, you would always paste those tips. So
Mm.
I would refer to those as well. Okay, the
Okay.
keywords is something that always was there. Okay, is something that you pick up in from the boot camp as well. Is look for the keywords, and then the keywords will guide you. So yeah, and sometimes the keywords may not be exactly the same in the question, but if you read it 2 or 3 times, then you will pick up on okay, where is it matching? And that helps, so if people are looking for keywords, don't look for the same words. Sometimes, yes, the same words might be there in the question and the answer. And that might just help you with the keywords, but you need to look for the wording as well. They might not use the same word, but a similar sort of word as well in the
Correct.
answers. So look for those,
Yeah. Similar words. Like I used to keep
yes,
telling this, right? The oversight board, the governance board, and all those things. Steering committee
yes,
interchange.
yeah.
Very nice.
So like, it could be like impediment and blocker. So
Yeah.
the question might say impediment, but it could be a blocker in the answers, in the options. So,
Okay, I'm starting my own batch, that's on 26th of
okay.
April. Would you recommend anyone to pick it up? Because it's going to be costly. Means I'm not going to be cheap for sure. But will it be worth for them? Because someone who can, understand, deep dive in my boot camp and then get the
Yeah,
mentoring so that they can crack the examination. So would you
sure.
recommend from your
Oh,
side by any chance?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would recommend it. Like you mentioned, yes, it's not cheap, but I think, luckily there is a tax option. I think a lot of places, in a lot of countries, you can claim it back in tax.
Yeah.
So, as a tax deductible, because it is something which is going towards your professional development. And, at this stage, I think the way the world is, I think it's always important. You never stop learning,
Yeah.
and for me, I think it had been almost about 8 years since I'd taken up a certification or some sort of exam.
Right.
And I was like, you know what, let me just do it. It's something that, the other reason was because I think it was a calculated risk. So it's always being optimistic, but plan as a pessimist and dream as an optimist. So
Very
I
nice.
would say.
Very
So
nice.
I was like, okay, fine. Even though I'm like doing it within 3 weeks,
Hmm.
at the back of my mind, it was that okay, I get two more attempts after this. But the endeavor was, I have to clear it in the first, but at least if I don't do well in the first, I have two more attempts left. So for me it was okay, I'm still planning as a pessimist, that okay, that was the backup option when you look at risk from a risk
Hmm.
mitigation perspective, because you're spending a fair chunk of money on the exams itself.
Yeah.
So you want to sort of make sure. But I was like, yeah, do it in the first attempt so that you're not in pressure in the second. And
Correct.
obviously, you know yeah, but I think it was good that I was able to clear it in the first attempt. So
By the way, I'll tell you what. Since your days of version 4, right? I did it in version 3. I have been
yeah,
coaching, mentoring since version 3, version 4, version 5, version 6, version 7, version. Now it's version 7, right? And even version 8 is coming out. Very exciting. Now these versions
yes,
7 and 8 are very, very, very powerful. I'll tell you what, because we are talking about hybrid. Now next is
oh yes,
BA mindset would be integrated. So these are something which are very, very nice to get in today's world. And someone who has been thinking, okay, I need PMP, but I have not been able to do for whatever reasons. In fact, this is the best time considering the best versions are live now, right? And with the hybrid,
absolutely.
and even I
I
think
think
some
I
don't
would
know.
want to touch upon that, Doctor, is that because I have worked in agile and matrix environments or hybrid projects,
Hmm.
because when I spoke to somebody, I said, oh, I'm doing the PMP training, and they said PMP does all waterfall. Why
Hmm.
are you doing that? And I was like, no, I really want to do it. And then obviously when you go through PM Box 7, it was like more hybrid. So then that was like okay,
Hmm.
so you realize that that PMI or the PMBOK is also evolving with the times, and it's
Yeah.
still not stuck in an old sort of mindset. So having that mindset of evolution, and PMBOK 7 being hybrid and having worked in that hybrid sort of setup was, I think, a big advantage for me, especially
Hmm.
when with the mock exams and the tests. So and especially with the generative AI, and that's something that I want to look at next, as well, because AI, I started using AI in the last, say, 6 or 8 months,
Hmm.
for a lot of things. It just makes things so much more easier. Even like I'm doing it for basic things like writing cover letters because I think
Yeah.
that is so boring to write for me. So like, okay, here is a job description. Can in ChatGPT write a cover letter, and it would just write the cover letter, and then you sort of obviously make the tweaks based to
Correct.
your experience and use it, and then Excel formulas, PowerPoint templates, a lot of things. So, from a project perspective, I'd definitely like to explore that, the AI part of it, which I'm really excited and looking forward to. So definitely, version 7, 8, and 9 beyond is so much more exciting to be part of, and taking that up as a learning. I definitely, encourage everyone to do that.
In fact, if someone says PMP is all about waterfall, I think it's a wrong mindset. Even in the days when 2009, when I was called for a panel review in our Mindtree where PMI
Yeah,
was also there, I had told them one thing, guys, you are not understanding. Within entire PMBOK, there is a lot of agility which people could not understand it, because you
exactly.
cannot have real waterfall. There would be reviews, there would be updates and things like that. So overall, if someone has that perception that PMP is all about waterfall, please come out of it. PMP is the most updated content which you're going to get uh,
Yes,
in the stream. If
exactly.
everyone is just following us, we are means
Yeah.
PMI is there since 1969. So I really admire PMI a lot, right? So
Yes,
that's what I
yes,
would also recommend. If I've got all the
absolutely.
certifications on this planet, like Scaled Agile, to
Yeah, yeah,
ITEL, and other things as well.
yeah,
But I can tell you this.
yeah, yeah.
So, well, this was amazing. And did you had a balance, agile and a traditional kind of questions as well in your examination?
It was, I think, but I think more was towards the hybrid and agile.
Hmm.
And yes, there were, but I think the percentage wise, or just a rough guesstimate was, more hybrid and agile,
Hmm.
and waterfall was I think the third. So I think there were the higher percentage of hybrid, then the next would be agile, and then the third would be waterfall. That's what.
What was it
But
like
yeah,
70,
like you mentioned,
70% agile and
yeah.
hybrid, and then 30% was predictive?
Yeah, I would say about I would say about 40% hybrid, and then 30% agile and 30% waterfall. So
Okay, got it.
or predictive.
Hmm.
So that was the split, at least from my exam. And yeah, those were the rough figures. But like you might likely rightly mentioned, no project is purely waterfall. There's always going to be some sort of hybrid element,
Hmm.
especially in today's day and age. And I think because the agile methodologies have evolved over the last 10, 15 years, although agile's been around for 20 odd years now,
Yeah,
but I think a lot more people are starting to work on it. So it makes understanding PMP a lot more easier. And if you even if you're not a project manager or a business analyst, even if you're working as a SME or a developer or a tester, test manager, you guys must definitely look at PMP, because it's so much more aligned to what you're doing when your day-to-day work.
correct. And with the disciplined agile toolkit coming inside, I think it's going to be huge, huge advantage with the kind of
Oh, yeah,
process, right? You have the
absolutely.
1,500 plus frameworks available in the market. You pick and choose which
Yes,
one to use when and for which team, how you're going to make it.
yes,
I think that's where all
yeah,
these, scale agile and Scrum have become outdated today. And what is going to be
absolutely.
modern is going to be hybrid, and it's going to be like a combination of what you want to use at different teams. Fantastic. It was
Absolutely. And
amazing,
and
amazing to bring
yes.
your experience, and especially with that
Yeah.
journey of that fear to cracking it out.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Thank you.
think
Thank you.
yeah,
This I would
because I
like to,
think PMBOK,
yeah,
yeah,
please go ahead.
PMBOK, the earlier versions would have been were very intimidating. But I think we are in a good time right now, because we have so many collaborative tools that are there, which help us. So definitely, I think people should definitely take up the PMP examination, or if not, at least the CAPM.
Yeah,
At least that way they can start off
it's
and build up their confidence.
absolutely. Thank you so much for your valuable time. I will
No, thanks a lot.
pause the